Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Sohbet and Sufi meditation with myself, Paul Salahuddin Armstrong. Today on the 12th of June 2023. Speaking to you today from the University of Birmingham's Multi Faith Chaplaincy in St. Francis Hall, which is near the Students' Guild. Earlier this afternoon, I had an interesting event that I attended, and it was one which had caused some concerns among some Muslim students on campus. And so, I mean, they raised these concerns with me a couple of weeks ago. And as a result, I got interested in the event, and I thought it would be worth going to actually attend, and it was something that I should do. The event in question was actually a presentation event where Sadia Azmat talks about this book called Sex Bomb that she's actually produced. And this lady is fully hijabbed lady a lot of the time. She always wears a hijab, a headscarf, but she also dresses quite fashionably, and I've seen that in some of the images as well. But she's just wrote this. It's basically a biography of a good part of her life. It's not necessarily got everything, but it's a good part of her life, and it's a personal biography. She addresses some of the issues which she's faced throughout her life. And Sadia mentioned that the reason it's called this Sex Bomb, it's not named after the Tom Jones song, but it's to challenge stereotypes. Because since 9/11, a lot of people have been thinking of Muslims, wrongly, of course, as being involved with ISIS, Al Qaeda, terrorism. And it's not to say that there aren't some Muslims that sadly have got caught up in these extremist groups and are involved in them. This is undeniable, obviously. We all know this. But that does not mean that Muslim equals Taliban or Muslim equals terrorism. Terrorism existed long before Islam. And terrorism is going to tragically continue to exist until humanity develops to some level of consciousness and the systems that we institute within society that mean that we move away from terrorism, as not just as societies, but like everybody does, and it's not something which is done anymore. At the moment, I mean, we do not see that in sight. I mean, I wish we did, because it is one of the most evil things. I remember Sheikh Dawood Rossa Owen pointing out to me that these people are so bad that it was understood traditionally that if there was a Muslim country at war with another country, and there was a band of terrorists or bandits, or they would have been called other things in the past, but basically terrorists, people who were targeting, ordinary people and merchants and just wreaking havoc and stealing things, and this sort of people, that it becomes a duty upon the Muslim leader to try to secure a ceasefire with his enemy or her enemy, with their enemies, and to track down and to deal with these terrorists first. I mean, this is how heinous this whole thing is within Islam. But this is the thing. Sex bomb is a different thing, because the word sex bomb in English, it has kind of a positive and uplifting meaning. I know amongst people who are maybe more religiously conservative, it's kind of shocking as well. But this was the reasoning that Sadia actually gave when she was questioned on this. And I think that it's interesting, because I mean, do we really look at a Muslim woman who is wearing hijab as being as desirable as a woman who is dressed Western and is not wearing hijab? Individuals perhaps might, but it's like within the society that we live, within the cultural milieu that we are living in here, it's seen very different. And a woman who wears hijab has so many assumptions and presumptions made about her that she might be extremist, or she could be very pious, or she could be judging other people, or she could be oppressed, or there's so many things, that are assumed about a Muslim woman who wears hijab. Some of these are by fellow Muslims, some of these are from the wider society. But nonetheless, there's a whole list of assumptions that are made just because a woman chooses to wrap a scarf around her head. And that can be difficult for a woman to carry and to have to deal with every day. Equally, within traditionally Muslim communities, especially from certain backgrounds, a similar number of assumptions are made about a woman who chooses not to wear hijab. And yet, as Sadia Azmat pointed out today, over the years, she's got to know women who do not wear hijab, who are more religious and better Muslims than she is. This is her own words. And at the same time, there are women who wear hijab who, yeah, some of them are very pious, some of them aren't. Similarly, for men that choose to wear a particular outfit to project their belief system. It's not unique to Muslims as such, but it is a problem that us Muslims do tend to have. People don't look beyond the outfit. It's like there are many people, they make assumptions about me because I choose to keep my beard very, very trimmed and short. If you've ever noticed, I haven't been clean shaven. It's been years since I've been clean shaven. But at the same time, I clearly don't have a full beard. I could grow one, but I haven't grown one for years. But whether I grow a full beard or I don't grow a full beard, if you understand this as a sunnah, as something that the Prophet Muhammad did, if I do it, then I will get the blessing of the sunnah. If I don't do it, then I don't get the blessing of that particular sunnah. That's all it means. And there are many sunnahs, thousands of sunnahs. Why focus on a beard and ignore the sunnah of smiling? That's a sunnah as well. When you greet someone, to greet them with a good greeting. If they're a fellow Muslim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If they are a Hindu, Namaste. Nothing wrong with saying it. It has a good meaning. Or an English person on your street, good morning, good afternoon, how are you today? Friendly, smiling, cheerful. To give good greetings is a sunnah. To smile is a sunnah. Are these more or less valuable than the sunnah of growing a beard? Who is the better Muslim? One who smiles and gives good greetings, or one who grows a big beard? As for clothes, I mean, there's no real difference between wearing a shirt that comes down to just below one's waist like this, and wearing one that goes down all the way down to the bottom of your legs, especially if you're wearing trousers. It's just a choice of fashion and a cultural costume. There is no particular blessing in one or the other, and it depends on where you're geographically located, what your role is within society, and how you want to present yourself, as well as fashion choices. But some people, they make a big thing about wearing Arabic style thobes or Pakistani style shawar kameez, but there's no special blessing in wearing these particular clothes that makes you a better Muslim or more likely to be closer to Allah or to get closer to paradise. If you wore Turkish clothes or you wear fairly, not too tight fitting English clothing or American clothing, it all serves the same purpose. But some people, they make a big deal about this, and implies somehow that if someone wears English clothing, that they are not a good Muslim, and if they wear a thobe, and have a big beard or wearing a hijab with it, that they are somehow a good Muslim, completely ignoring the fact that the Prophet Muhammad SAW, when he walked past a woman's house every day who used to throw all sorts of filthy things out of her window and he fell on her head, that one day she didn't, and he knocked on her door and he went to see if she was okay. That's also a sunnah, because it's something the Prophet Muhammad SAW did, to always show kindness to people, even if those people are not kind to you. It's the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. I would suggest it's perhaps a bit more of an important sunnah than how many millimeters your facial hair is. But going back to what I was referring to, I mean, Sadia Azmat here was mentioning about all these assumptions that people make. And instead of talking to her and getting to know her as just another human being, people were talking at her and talking to her like somehow she is representative of all Muslims, or somehow that, she knows about ISIS and she can answer questions on ISIS and all manner of other things. And it reminded me, actually, to be honest, I've had the same thing over the years. Because I'm visibly Muslim, I'm usually going along to various things representing a Muslim organization, but often as just, in many cases, just somebody who happens to be there at an event, not the actual speaker, which is a whole different matter. I mean, obviously, if I'm invited as a speaker to an event, then I expect to be speaking and to be asked questions. I mean, this is normal. But if I'm not invited to an event as a speaker and I just happen to be there as a guest, or I happen to be in a meeting about something completely different, as just someone on that meeting discussing a particular issue, and then I'm asked these questions as well, that put me on the spot about Islam, about ISIS, about terrorism, about, but why? I mean, we all know why, but it's obviously just because a person is visibly Muslim, whether it's through wearing a headscarf or a hat or a particular style of clothing that is perceived to be more Islamic. And I say this very pointedly, perceived to be. I mean, there's a picture I have up on the wall here, which has a picture of what is supposed to be a depiction of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, sitting on a well, sitting on the wall of a well, and a Samaritan woman is giving him water. And this is, of course, from a story which is recounted in the Bible about Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. And the Samaritan woman is from another, she's not Jewish, she's not from that tribe. But having said that, the Samaritans, their beliefs are also very similar to Jews. So it's more of a tribal thing rather than a religious thing. They still believe in the one God. They have religious rituals that are basically, to all intents and purposes, anybody else would regard them as very Jewish. But they're not Jews. And if you look at this Samaritan woman, the way she's dressed is in a headscarf, is in loose-fitting garments, and the way Isa, Isa Islam is depicted, is also in this long kind of gown that is covering all of him, like an Arab costume. And it could equally just be a Muslim man sitting on a well with a Muslim woman from the Middle East. And what's the betting that the actual models that were used to actually paint this? I mean, this is a copy, this is a printer, but what's the betting that the people that were actually painted were maybe even Muslims themselves? They weren't a Samaritan, they weren't a Jew, they were, but they could have been, or they could have been Christians or Jews from that region, because in that particular region, this is one of the traditional ways that the people dress. It's not the only one, because even there, fashions change from one generation to another. It's quite fascinating, actually. I've seen photos of old Palestinian clothing and Jordanian clothing and even Saudi clothing, and it's like it's different. Like every generation, they've got different clothing. It might be relatively conservative compared to like modern global clothing or Western clothing, but still, it's different from one generation to another. The styles, the patterns, the way it's actually trimmed and tailored, because every human society has its fashions. And the Arabs and Muslims are no different. If you go from one Muslim country to another Muslim country, there are differences in the styles of clothing. But still, people make assumptions about certain types of clothing as if they are somehow more Islamic than others. It's more of a cultural thing, how things are fashioned, and more something of the times. And then to make assumptions like that about people and put that on them, it does make a lot of people's lives more difficult than it need be. And I do hope people who read this book by Sadia Azmat, they get an idea of just how we are normal people at the end of the day. That we have our challenges in life, we have our difficulties that we go through. And, just like other people in society, it's like many conservative Muslims will not necessarily have boyfriends and girlfriends, and many would get married, and then in some cases it results in divorce. And others a bit more liberal, they will have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But some of these work out and some of these don't, whether they are a marriage or whether they are a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. Some of those end up as being very, very solid marriages, even though it starts as she's my girlfriend or he's my boyfriend. And we need to just be a bit more honest about all of these things. I mean, sure, Islam has certain ideals that we strive towards, but then there's also a reality of lived existence. And this is really what Sadia was talking about. It's the reality of lived existence. And sure, there are going to be things in that which are going to be haram or sinful from a religious perspective, but also they're commonplace. These are things that you will find very, very few people haven't had at least some experience of at some point, no matter how religious they are, no matter how strict they are, in striving to keep to their religious values or cultural values and expectations that are placed upon them. It is part of the human experience. And when this isn't acknowledged, when we don't work within this paradigm, we can end up in situations where people end up suffering in silence. They've got no one to talk to. And this was a concern actually that Sadia brought up in her, I don't know if it was in the talk or in the questions and answers afterwards, but she did bring it up. That who does someone talk to in her situation when your marriage or your relationship breaks down? Because often for religious and cultural reasons, it's a bit different from people who are from other parts of society. In addition, it's like within the community, who can you talk to? It's like a typical English person might be able to talk to their mother about it, or their father, or their brother, or their sister, or someone like this. So even if they talk to a friend, even if the conversation or aspects of the conversation, I mean, these things should be in confidence, but even if aspects of the conversation get out, it's like it's not really going to reflect so badly upon her, because there's more of an understanding within the wider society that these things happen, this is normal. But within some of these very conservative subcultures, it can be difficult to talk about these things, and if anything gets out and gets talked about by other people, it's like really can be seen as very shameful within that subculture. I'm not saying it should be. I'm saying this is something which people face, and they face many challenges, which really we need to be a bit more open and relaxed about, and understand that no one's perfect. And we all face these tests in our lives. We all have things which do not work out as we expect. And life is all about picking ourselves up and keep trying, keep going. If you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out, it's okay. You can dissolve that relationship and have another relationship. And hopefully that one will work out. It's similar with other aspects of life, Something doesn't work out, you try again. Keep picking yourself up. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's life. But some people in some parts of society don't allow people to just be themselves and to accept these things. And this is something which really it does need to change. We need to change our approach and our attitude to that, and allow people to work through their problems and not be judged for things which are really, really quite normal. And be able to discuss things in a much more open way, where we can actually arrive at good solutions which actually benefit people and make everybody's lives better and easier, and avoid people being stuck in situations where they can't resolve them, or they end up in very toxic relationships or toxic situations and they don't know how to get out of it. We can avoid that by having these discussions and conversations, and being a bit more frank and honest about realities. And yes, we can reference if it's from a religious perspective, we can reference from our sources and our ideals, what we're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, accepting that there is a lived reality in addition to this, and real challenges and problems that people face. In fact, one of the main things I've been dealing with ever since, even before I was a chaplain here at the University of Birmingham, was actually helping people work through some of these issues, these personal issues, which no one else was there for them. One of the main things which I've been doing for was about 15 years or so. Initially, very unofficially, people just would knock on my door or meet me in the street. But I realized after so many years, and before I applied for this, that basically chaplaincy, that's what chaplains do. But then how many chaplains could people actually sit down with and have that kind of honest and frank conversation? Should be able to with any chaplain, really. I know here at the University of Birmingham, I think all of my colleagues, that anybody could sit with them and have this kind of conversation, and they would be well received and in a quite a relaxed and a good way, which would be supportive, whether they're of that faith or not. And it's part of the chaplain's role. But then I can't comment on other chaplains, and certainly people outside of university chaplaincy, people who are working in traditional places of worship, some of which might be more conservative, who are imams. Um, some of them might be open like this, but then there will be others, and I've met many over the years that I couldn't possibly see anybody being able to have that conversation with them unless they grew spiritually themselves and grew out of that kind of narrow-mindedness. It's kind of very judgy mentality. We shouldn't have that. And may Allah make things easier for everyone. But certainly, the book is interesting, and Sadia Azmat herself is a very bubbly personality and very interesting to listen to. I mean, one of the things I found most astonishing, to be honest, was after everything that I heard about what she might be saying and how problematic it is and all the rest of it, that Sadia actually spent a good 15 minutes promoting the hijab. I don't think she necessarily meant to be promoting the hijab, but it just came naturally from what she was reading and talking about why she wears hijab and how hijab is, affects you and all the rest of it. I think in her own unique way, she did more to promote the hijab than a lot of these more conservative-minded Muslims, and also more to humanize the hijab and help people to understand the hijab who are not familiar with it, who don't come from a Muslim background. And I think that is that's also very interesting. But I'll leave that there. If there is anything that you have benefited from in this, then I give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, my parents and my sheikhs. And if I've made any mistakes, then please forgive me. All of the errors are my own. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. نويت رابي نويت الأسدى نويت الكوى نويت الاعتكاف نويت السلوك نويت رياضة لله ترى في هذا جميل. I intend to perform the 40 days of retreat. I intend to retreat in isolation. I intend to retreat in solitude. I intend to perform the retreat. I intend to follow the path. I intend to perform the spiritual practices of Allah, the highest in this place of worship. We begin with the recitation of the Kalama Shahada. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We seek Allah's forgiveness with the recitation of Astaghfirullah. Just means may Allah forgive me. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab. Ya Musabib al-Asbab, Ya Mufatiha Abwab. Ya Muqallibu Qulubi wal Absar. Ya Dulail al-Mutakhairin. Ya Ghayth al-Mustakhayathin. Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. Ya Dhu Jalali wal Ikram. Wa afridu amri illah inna allaha basiran bil ibad. Rabita Sharifa, direct your heart to the heart of your Shaykh. Fatiha Sharifa. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألم نشرح صلوات الشريفة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I'm not sure it's true. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن من العسر يسرا إن من العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب ولله ربك فارغب. إقرأ الشريفة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. فاتحة شريفة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. صلوات الشريفة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي هديتني من الملك ولمتني من تولي حديث فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت وليه في الدنيا والآخرة توفاني مسلما ولكني بالصالحين آمن بالله صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب ذات ما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إلى حضرات النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ولوأصحاب الكرام وإلى وحي أنبياء والمرسلين وكل ما إبراهيم وإلى إماتي أبوه وإلى مشايخنا في طريقة نقشبندية تيالية قصة إلى آلك وجدان الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Falamanahu, know that there is no God except the God. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatu la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu la ilaha illallah la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu la ilaha illallah la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu la ilaha illallah la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Nabi Allah عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشافي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشافي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشافي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشافي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشافي الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إلا شرف نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه الكرام وإلى واقع سائر سادتنا وصديقيون الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين الله 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 Allah, 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 Allah. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Hawk, 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 hawk. Hi, 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 hi. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Allahu Allah Hak, 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 Allahu Allah Hak. Allahu Allah Hak, 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 Allahu Allah Hay, Allahu Allah Hay, Allahu Allah Hay, Allahu Allah Hay. Allahu Allah Hay, 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 Allah Allah Hay Ya Qayyum, 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 Allah Hay Ya Qayyum. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin wa sallim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Ali Muhammadin وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد 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 وسلم صل يا ربي وسلم على جميع أنبياء ومرسلين وعلى كل أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين على أشرف الأنبياء سيدنا محمد صلوات على أفضل الأمين سيدنا محمد صلوات على أكمال الأمين سيدنا محمد صلوات صلوات الله وملائكته وأنبيائه ورسوله وجميع كوكي على محمد وعلى آل محمد عليه وعليهم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته وديره تبارك وتعالى أن تدتنا شبي رسول الله أجمعين ونتبينا بهم بإحسان ونعمة مجتدين يوم الدين ونعلماء متقين ونولياء صالحين أما الشيخين في طريقة نقشبندية عالية كذا صلاة اللهم زكيا ونولاه تعالى ترات مباركة ودلاه تعالى علينا من بركاتهم وفيوداتهم دائما والحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين إلى خضرات النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وأصحابه الكرام وإلى أواخي سوي أنبياء والمرسلين وكل ما يشرعهم وإلى أواخي مشايخنا في طريقة نقشبندية عالية كاستاني روحي إمام طريقة وقوتي كليكا شابه دي نقشبند مدر ويس بخاري وإلى مولانا السلطان أولياء شيخ عبد الله فياض دغستاني وإلى شيخ عبد القادر الجيلاني وإلى الشيخ شريف هداية الله وإلى Sunan Ampul وإلى Sunan Giri and all of the Wali Songo وإلى Sheikh Yusuf Muqasa وإلى مولانا Sheikh Nazim Adillakani وإلى Zindapia وإلى Sufi Abdullah وإلى Sheikh Dawood Ross Owen وإلى Gustur وإلى مولانا Sheikh Hisham Kabani وإلى Sheikh Dr. Tariq Khadri وإلى Sheikh Badshah وإلى الشيخ محمد الديل وإلى الشيخ نور كباني وإلى كياي مصطفى أكيل وإلى كياي يايا قوليل استقر وأستدينا عبد القادر الجواني وأستدينا وصديقيون الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم Ya Allah, we pray for the eternal blessings upon the soul of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him and his noble ancestors and his noble descendants. And we pray the same for all of the previous prophets and their noble ancestors and their noble descendants. And we pray that you bless the companions of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, and the Khilaf al-Rashidin, and the ulama and the awliya, and especially my Sheikh Sufi Abdullah, Mulana Sheikh Nazim, and Sheikh Dawood Rasaoin. Ya Allah bless their souls and raise their stations in your divine presence. Ya Allah, we pray too for my dear father, Richard Kevin Armstrong. Ya Allah bless his soul and raise his station in your divine presence. Ya Allah, we pray for Sheikh Sharif Hidayatullah, Sunan Ampul, Sunan Giri, all of the Wali Songo, Sheikh Yusuf Makassa, for Sheikh Didik, Sheikh Adang Badruddin, and Sheikh Abdul Qadir Sufi. Ya Allah bless their souls and raise their stations in your divine presence. Ya Allah, we pray for all of our mothers and our fathers, our grandparents, our ancestors, and if there is anything which we have done or will do in our lives which is pleasing to you, we pray that you grant the blessing of this upon our parents and our grandparents, upon our ancestors, upon the awliya Allah and the Prophet Muhammad SAW. Ya Allah, we pray that you look after our parents as they looked after us as small children. Ya Allah, we pray that you bless our aunties and our uncles, our brothers and our sisters, our nieces and our nephews, and especially our dear wives or husbands, our loved ones, our families, our children, all future wives, future husband, future grandchildren and grandchildren, future generations. Ya Allah, we pray that you bless our entire families and grant our families to be under your divine protection and blessing. And we pray that you grant your blessings upon the fellow chaplains at this multi-faith chaplaincy and upon the multi-faith chaplaincy itself. Make this always be a place of sanctuary and peace, and where people can come together as a community and perform their religious rituals or their community activities, and that this is always a place of blessings. Ya Allah, we pray that you bless our fellow chaplains and support them in the good work which they do for you, for their congregations. Ya Allah, we pray that you bless the University of Birmingham and all the people who work and study here. We pray that you bless Birmingham and the United Kingdom. We pray that you bless Indonesia and all of the nations on this earth, that you bless all the people of all of the nations, and that you grant us that we may have more wisdom in our dealings, both with other people within our society as individuals and also collectively as societies with other societies. We pray that you grant us the wisdom not to jump to conclusions about people or about what they're saying, and that if people are saying things which we find difficult, that you give us the strength to listen to them and to increase in our own understanding, both of our religion and also of the understanding of the challenges that people face in life, our understanding of people, our understanding of society, and that through this, that you increase the quality of rahmah in our hearts, increase the light in our hearts, increase the love in our hearts. Ya Allah, we pray that you grant light to the right of us, light to the left of us, light behind us, light in front of us, light below us and light above us. And yet you fill us with light, that you fill us with light, that you fill us with light, as the Prophet Muhammad SAW used to pray for the sake of your beloved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sadia Rabbi wa salim ala jami anbiya'i wa mursalin wa likulli ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Thank you for joining us for this week's Sohbet and Sufi meditation at the University of Birmingham's Multi-Faith Chaplaincy. I look forward to seeing you on Friday for my online-only Friday reflections. And have a very good and blessed week wherever you are. If you're in the UK, have a very good evening. And wherever you are in the world, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.